I need to tell you what I did, and you're going to think I'm terrible. But there's something about calling someone a placeholder that nobody understands until they felt their own heart turn into a ghost town overnight. Everyone thinks he's the villain for walking out mid-sentence, but the truth is, I'm the one who ruined everything. And here's what really happened, because if I don't tell this story, you'll never understand why I haven't been able to look at myself in the mirror for 3 months without feeling like I'm staring at a stranger who deserves to be alone. This isn't just about a relationship ending. It's about the deeper fear that I've been hiding from everyone, including myself, that maybe I don't actually know how to love anyone except the idea of them. I'm going to tell you everything, including the exact words I used that made him stand up from our favorite coffee shop table and leave without his coat in the middle of February. And the part that makes me look worst, I'm saving that for the end, because you need to understand how I convinced myself I was being practical when I was actually being cruel. The whole thing started because I was turning 30 in 6 months and had this spreadsheet of qualities my future husband needed to have. James checked exactly 73% of the boxes. Good job, kind to his mother, wanted kids someday, didn't vape. The missing 27% felt like a ticking clock, so I told my best friend Sarah that he was fine for now, while I kept looking for someone who hit 90% or higher. She gave me this look and said maybe I was being too picky, but I laughed it off because everyone settles eventually, right? I just wanted to settle better than my mother did. What I haven't told you yet is that James knew about the spreadsheet. Not the actual document, but he could sense there was this invisible scorecard in my head. He'd make these little jokes about being my starter boyfriend, and I'd play punch his arm and tell him to stop being dramatic. But looking back, the signs were all there that he was learning how little he meant to me while pretending it didn't hurt. I was so focused on finding someone who loved cooking when James only made pasta that I missed how he always remembered exactly how I took my coffee. Oat milk, 2 sugars, extra hot, because my hands get cold easily. The night everything cracked open, we'd been dating for 8 months, and I was getting restless. Everyone on social media kept posting engagement photos with captions about when you know, and I still felt this weird blank space where certainty was supposed to live. While I was worried about whether his hairline would recede early like his dad's, the real problem was that I'd started keeping a mental list of backup options. Guys from dating apps I'd never deleted, the bartender who always gave me free drinks, my ex who still liked all my photos. Everyone could see what was happening except me, because I was busy convincing myself that being practical about love was the same thing as being smart. You're probably thinking I'm some cold-hearted monster, but it gets worse. The actual breaking point came when James and I were having dinner at his place, and he was telling me about this promotion he'd gotten, something about managing a bigger team, more money, maybe moving to a new city if I wanted to come with him. I should have been happy for him, proud even, but instead I felt this panic rise up like heartburn, because moving would mean we were serious, and serious meant I couldn't keep pretending I wasn't shopping for an upgrade. He was mid-sentence, explaining how he'd pictured us getting a dog together, when I heard myself say, "That's nice, but maybe we should talk about whether this is actually going somewhere, or if we're just each other's placeholders until someone better comes along." The words hung there like smoke from a fire I didn't mean to start. James's fork stopped halfway to his mouth, and he looked at me, not angry, which would have been easier, but like I just told him his mother died. For a moment, I actually believed I was being mature by being honest, that relationships should have exit strategies like startup companies. Then he set down his fork so carefully, like he was afraid of breaking something, and said, "So that's what I am to you? A placeholder?" And because I was too scared to admit that saying it out loud made it sound worse than it felt in my head, I just shrugged and said, "I mean, aren't we both?" That's when he stood up and walked out of his own apartment, left me sitting there with half-eaten Thai food getting cold on his table. I thought he'd come back in 5 minutes, maybe 10, but 30 minutes later, I was still alone with the growing understanding that I'd just done something permanent. The text messages between us tell a different story than what I'm sharing here. Me saying, "Come on, don't be dramatic," and him responding, "I can't be with someone who's been auditioning my replacement for months." I looked like I had it all together, but privately, I was refreshing my phone every 30 seconds, waiting for him to say he was outside, that we could talk about this, that I hadn't just destroyed the best thing I'd ever had. Here's what I haven't told you, and it changes everything. 3 days after he ghosted me completely, blocking me on everything, including LinkedIn, I found a receipt in my purse for a ring. Not just any ring, a vintage sapphire with tiny diamonds around it, size 6.5, exactly my size. He'd bought it 2 weeks before I called him a placeholder, had been carrying it around, waiting for the right moment, probably the promotion dinner that I turned into a breakup. Remember when I said maybe we were both each other's placeholders? The real reason I said it was because admitting that someone might actually want to keep me forever felt more terrifying than the idea of being alone, because being alone meant I couldn't ruin anything. While everyone was liking my sad posts about when you know they're not the one, the DMs told a different story. Friends asking if I was okay, but really asking if I was as stupid as I seemed, if I'd really thrown away a guy who brought me medicine when I was sick and learned basic Spanish to talk to my grandmother. The comments on my posts were all, "You deserve someone who checks all your boxes." But behind the scenes, people were telling me I'd made the kind of mistake you can't come back from, that James was the kind of person you don't find twice in one lifetime. Now, 3 months later, here's where things stand. James moved to the new city without me, got that dog, a golden retriever named Max, that he always said he'd want if we ever got one together. He's dating someone who posts photos of them cooking together, even though she probably burns water. And he looks happier than he ever did with me, because she's smart enough to know that 73% of perfect is still better than 100% of a spreadsheet. Everyone thinks social media ruined us, but the real problem started before that. Started with me treating love like a shopping experience, where I could return him if I found something better, not understanding that better is often just different packaging on the same human capacity for kindness. The worst part about what happened isn't what you think. It's something I've never told anyone, and it changes everything. I've been on 23 first dates since James left, and every single one of them has asked why I'm single. I tell them I haven't met the right person yet, but the truth is I'm terrified that I was the problem all along, that I called him a placeholder because I was putting a label on the empty space where my ability to trust love should have been. The real reason I'm telling you this is because yesterday I saw him at the grocery store. He didn't see me, was just buying dog food and smiling at something on his phone, and I realized I'd spent so long looking for someone who checked boxes that I missed the person who was willing to build a whole life with me, even when I was difficult and scared and convinced that love was something you could upgrade like a phone plan. Remember what I said about being practical? Here's the truth. I spent 8 months treating someone's heart like a temporary parking spot while they were trying to build me a home. And now I'm the ghost in my own life, haunting the spaces where someone better than me is living the future I threw away mid-sentence.